Bam, we're live.
I'm trying to be woke. I actually go in the ladies' restroom now. Sure. Well, because technically I'm a man, but I identify as a pervert. I'm trying to be woke.
I apologize. I thought we were doing a live call-in show. I apologize. I didn't realize this was the team's semifinal show.
Should I come back tomorrow?
Yes. Good morning, Eric. Good morning, Eric. I had a small meltdown. Geez Louise, good morning. Omar Conejo, good morning. Kelly Slater, good to see you, buddy. Look at you with Rich Froning trying to front. Angela, good morning. All hearts and shit. It's good stuff. Chris, good morning. Brian Friend, good morning. Pool Boy, good morning. David, assalamu alaikum. Yes, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes. Thank you. Yalla. Good morning, Isaac Abad from the Dubai. Oh, there she is. Okay, we can start the show. That's wrong, Eric. Not my boyfriend, so I don't care. Oh, I thought you were just going to say good morning to us. You're already fighting in the comments. Okay. Robbie Myers, good morning. I'm glad you've taken your hat off for when you come on the show. I remember when you used to wear your hat in here. Not cool. Richie Rich. Thanks, Sebi and Brian. I think I've never and will never play Frisbee toss, but I know more about it and the players than anyone else I know. I remember the Richie Rich cartoon. That's not around anymore, is it? Jay Hartle, did you hear about Jamie Foxx? I know that I saw something on TMZ that he got hospitalized for something last week. I don't have a lot of time today, people. We must address the guest, Mr. Brian Friend. Is it? Do you think it's wrong to call you a guest? Like you come over, it's like your friend who comes over all the time and they're not really a guest anymore. Like if this were my house, you could open the refrigerator without asking me.
So what would you call me then?
I would kind of expect you to. Like if you came over as much as we do shows and we're like, hey, could I have water? I'd be annoyed. I'd be like, dude, you know where the cups are and the water is. Oh my goodness. Jamie Foxx did have a 49ers incident. Holy shit. Oh my God. He got 49ers. Oh my God. I'm seeing 2 a day now from athletes. It's crazy. I hope the CrossFit athletes are good. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. I find this whole ranking thing. Yesterday I asked you if you've ever done a team ranking before, and I think you said you didn't know. But I'm going to answer for you. No, you have not.
Well, prior to the games, probably was like these are predictions. I'm sure we did that last year for the top. What are all the teams that made the games? But in the middle of the season, probably not.
Yeah, this is I can't tell if this is a bold task to rank the teams or stupid, because well, bear with me here because they
I think I even addressed that in the article. Basically,
it's so well. You do say this in the article. For anyone who wants to follow along, head over to befriendlyfitness.com. Don't put in the period. It's just the letter B and then the word friendly fitness, all one word, .com. You do say, hey, this is basically twice you reiterate, hey, this is going to be hard without seeing them compete. I really need to see these guys together on the floor at least once to evaluate. Yeah, this isn't anything permanent. I mean,
I think there are 2 key elements to that.
Okay.
One is especially with team competitions. I think there's a lot of limits to what you can test in an online format and a lot of elements of teamwork that can be tested to a higher level and with a greater, kind of diversity in a live setting. That's why I want to see some of these teams compete, especially when you couple that with the fact, what I wrote in here is that, how do you handle new teams composed of extremely talented individuals and assess their potential when you haven't seen them in a live setting against teams who have been competing together for a long time?
Are there teams that have been competing for a long time?
Yeah, I mean, the 4th team on the list, for example, CrossFit Oslo Navy Blue, they've been second place at the games to Mayhem Freedom the last 2 years. It's the same it's the same team from last year. They did have one replacement of the male between 2021 and 2022. Nikolai joined their team, but Lena, Ingrid, and Ivan have been on that team now. This will be their third consecutive year. They also have, I think, 6 teams out of CrossFit Oslo that are competing at semifinals. So it's a very, there's a lot of opportunities for team training in that environment, more so than probably anywhere else in the world, maybe CrossFit Invictus. The CrossFit Invictus team is the exact same team that came back last year. But surrounding those teams, you have East Nashville, which is a new team, Torian Mayhem, which is a new team, and No Shortcuts, which is a new team, and CrossFit Franco's Misfit, which is a new team. So you have, even at the top, a blend of new and old teams. And, I'm doing my best to kind of assess some of what I think the potential is in some cases. In other cases, I think I kind of know, because Andrea and Taylor have been doing this forever. We know Tola has a lot of team experience.
That picture of Tola, we'll go back to in a second. Who took that? Is that a Patrick Clark picture too?
No, this one is just from Proven.
Oh.
They took that during, I believe,
whoever took that. That's an incredible photo.
Yeah, and Proven puts out good media.
Bailey Walker, Team Verdant. Yes, for $1.99, you can purchase a few seconds of Brian's brain to speak about some fucking obscure team. Thank you, Bailey. Is this even a team? Team Verdant CrossFit?
Checking something here.
Did she just waste $1.99?
Nah.
No, it's not raining in California. Not right now at my house. The sun should come out. Thank you for asking. But it did rain for like 3 days straight. A Team Verdant.
I believe there are some teams from the West Coast. Yeah, I would consider them to be in the hunt for kind of an outside game spot in the North America West.
Brian, is there a team that that's like been together for like 5 years, the same 4 people? Like, does that exist in the top 40?
I think, I'm not sure for exactly how long, but the team that I have ranked 12th, CrossFit Portti out of Finland, they have been competing together for a while. I know for at least 3 years now. I'm not 100% sure beyond that, but I spoke to them at Lowlands Throwdown last year. They were in the top 10 2 years ago at the games. So I think in terms of experience working together, the same people, they're kind of towards the top.
This team that has Laura Isopusa on it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She's a great name. Look at the guy's first name. They have a guy named Jusa, and then they have a girl named Isopusa. Joshua?
Yeah, it's like the Finnish version of Joshua, I think. Petteri is the Finnish version of Peter.
Oh.
Josh and Peter. You can call him Josh and Peter if you want.
So that team's been, thank you. That team's been together. Oh, look at Sam Stewart down at 14. That's an individual athlete. What's he doing?
Yeah, so this is another good example. The CrossFit Walleye athlete team. Sam Stewart, former individual games athlete. Joshua Wistrup, German national champion in 2019, competed at the games. Mia Hesketh, obviously tons of experience, individual and team. And Antonia Falk-Kotolinski out of Sweden. She was on the CrossFit Nordic original team that placed in the top 5 at the games 2 years ago. They did compete last year, but they had to make the substitution based on that the ruling from CrossFit about one of their athletes living too far away and not training with him enough, or some, whatever they decided there. So she's got a lot of team experience. She also won the RX division at Wodapalooza 2 years ago. So this is a team that was assembled this year that has a lot of experience individually, some team experience, and I'm not entirely sure how good they are. I mean, obviously to put them 14th is pretty good worldwide. But
Sam's an individual male athlete, though, right? He's a games athlete.
So is Wistrup, and so is Mia.
Wow. From last year?
No, none of them last year, but at some point in their career. So that's certainly a team that when I see them compete in Berlin, it's possible I walk away with there and I say, yeah, as good as they are as individuals, just some of the teamwork and chemistry stuff, I think it's going to hold them back this season compared to, other teams. Or I might say, damn, everything that was thrown at them, they looked good. They moved in sync. They had good communication. There was no kind of butting of egos or heads or anything like that. And maybe this is a top 10 team.
Alyssa, I just have to say, can we get more masters 35 to 39 and less teams at the games?
I think those things are
in terms of what? In terms of getting media attention?
No, I think she's saying in terms of the number of athletes participating there. So she wants less teams. I think that what we're going to talk about when we get especially towards the middle to bottom of this list is that there are definitely enough teams worldwide that you could field 40 competitive teams at the games. But with the current distribution of spots, you're missing 25% of the best 40 teams in the world because they're all in North America East.
And the article addresses that basically, and I think we will get to that, or we could even do it now. Brian mentions in this article that's on BeFriendlyFitness.com that he thinks 17 or 18 of the best teams in the top 40, 17 or 18 of the teams in the top 40 all come from North America East, and then another 10 from North America West, right? So that would give North America 27 of the 40 teams if we just wanted the best people there and not a distribution of global representation.
And I mean, and I have.
Are you hating on that, by the way, or do you agree with that? I mean, although it may seem inconsistent, it's nice having global representation, isn't it?
Yeah, and I have the same contention that I have for the individuals. Is, if you want global representation, guarantee one spot, and then let to everyone, and then let performance, especially in the team division, I think even more so than the individual side, you're going to have this massive turnover year after year. Just new teams being created, teams filtering away, because it's not one person that has to make a decision to compete or not. It's an entire team. It might be 4 or 6 people and a coach. Can we all get to the same place at the same time, have the best equipment and enough training to actually be relevant and competitive in this season?
And
the
be
season
healthy.
Is long.
And be healthy.
Which we'll get to some of that today too. But but it just depends on, I always will caveat this anytime we talk about, CrossFit, the CrossFit Games teams execution or administration of the season is what's the purpose, and how much work are they willing to do to try to achieve that goal? Or is it just like an easy way out, 10, 10 and 10, 3, 3, 2, and lets everyone go to the games?
Switching subjects again a little bit. I have this bias. It's probably unsubstantiated, but I feel that when people leave individual competition, that they won't be as good when they come back. And and you have people like Annie who left on the craziest terms, right, and came back and kicked ass. You have Sam Quant. You have these clear people that have that don't fit in that paradigm, right? That do leave and come back and still perform at a really high level. But for some reason, I can't unstick that. And I am concerned when I see people like Sam Stewart go team, right? He's still young. And I'm very excited this year to see what happens to Samuel Cornway.
Yeah.
I would even go as far as this. I know this is blasphemy, but I would even go as far as to say, even training with Rich isn't going into the red anymore, right? And you need to be you need to be training with people who are going into the red on a regular basis. If you want to go to the games, right? If you want to be an individual, I just find it fascinating. I'm very, very curious what Samuel Cornway is going to be like this year at the games. Very curious.
Yeah, and just to follow up on the other side of that spectrum, we've talked about the 35 to 39 Masters division in particular already this season, and that the number of participants they have, which is pushing towards 35,000 in the men's division alone, and the quality and caliber of athlete that they have. I think either way you look at it, there's absolutely no denying that a field of 20 is sustainable at the games for that division. But CrossFit still has this choice that they've made to have the same number of qualifiers in every age group division, from 14 and 15 to 65 plus, everyone gets 10. And it has no reflection on the participants or the quality of the field. And I'm hopeful that will change in years coming. They already have that system in place for the adaptive divisions, where they just flat out tell them, if you don't have enough participants, then you don't get to go to the games. You don't get any representation there. But in the Masters division, where you have some divisions that have 10 times or 20 times as many registrants as others, getting the same number of qualifying spots, that kind of assessment of the fields of play is basically missing.
Let me ask you this. Would you rather have 20 Masters athletes and 7 events, or 10 Masters athletes and 8 events? I personally would rather have 10 Masters athletes and 8 events as a spectator. And I'm just being honest with, like,
well,
trying
what
to
about
be fair
this?
to the CrossFit Games. Let's say they do bring in more people. Okay, well then they say, okay, the masters are going to have a big cut after day one to help mitigate the stress of having so many more people to deal with. Or what if we reduce it by one event?
There doesn't have to be any more.
So you want your cake and you want to eat it too?
No.
Oh.
I'm saying that in the divisions that have 20,000 plus registrants, they get 20 spots to the games.
Okay.
In the divisions that have less than 2,000, they only get 5.
Okay.
And the 5 that would be removed from the 65 plus and 60 to 65 divisions will be supplement. Then you're going to have almost a net same number. Additionally, you know how they in this semifinals this past week, they scaled more. They had more scaling options than they usually do. Historically in the open, and even this past year, 16 and 17, and everyone who's 35 to 54 has the same loading, the same rep scheme, whatever. This year in the semifinals, 35 to 44 had the same stuff. 45 to 54, same. So they broke it down more. And then there was a third scaling option. And to your point, maybe the 55 plus only needs 7 events, but maybe the 35 to 44 can have 10. You know what I'm saying? So you can also taper it that way based on their age, that it's more responsible to have fewer events for the 60 plus athletes than it is. And the 35-year-olds can handle, 10 or 11 events. So you could have a little bit of flexibility in a lot of different ways. That's actually addressing the competitive pool of athletes in each division, not just with the weights or the movements or the reps, but also with the number of qualifiers and the number of events that they do at the games. Right now, based on the last conversation that I had with Adrian Bosman, he's handling the programming for every division, for every part of the season. He's the first touch point. That is a ton of work.
A ton. I don't think Dave did that. I think Dave put it off to Pat Sherwood.
I think that transition happened over time.
Right.
But, Dave may have been doing that early on, and eventually he realized, there are other people capable. I still want to take a look at everything, but
right. I also don't blame Adrian for doing that, especially in the as he takes control of the ship. He probably wants to see everything.
No, but I would look at Justin Berg. Justin Berg's been around forever, and he probably have seen it both ways. And he might say, you know what? I think that we'll be able to manage every part of the season or every division, whether it's individual, team, age groups, teenagers, adaptive, better if we have a different team lead at each one. Kind of, maybe we have some very specific patterns that we want to see across all of them, but then take a shot at this, take a shot at this, take a shot at this. We'll bring it back together. We'll all look at it and we'll go forward. It just gives for me, it's a better opportunity to have a more clear mind working on each one than to have one person's mind, no matter how talented and experienced he might be, responsible for all of them.
Right. On a little editorial note, I don't like lots of different workouts. and maybe I'm wrong and naive, but I like the fewest amount of workouts, especially at the open level, that everyone is kind of participating together. I think one of the coolest things about the Nopen that we'll find out soon is the fact that Andrew even made it so the men and the women were doing the same workouts. I personally like that intellectually. Maybe it's not practical, but like emotionally and intellectually, I like to see everyone kind of doing the same workouts, and I like the programmers to take up the challenge of keeping as many people together as possible.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, even there's been many times on podcasts or in conversations with friends that I've been reflecting on quarterfinals, and I just get confused. I can't remember which workout was for individuals and which one was for the masters. And it's like, they could, even though they're on different weekends, like they could be very similar workouts. They don't have to be dramatically different. And I'm not entirely sure why they are. Maybe there is some kind of a thought progression that it's like, no, in the masters divisions, we really need to assess this here, but for the individuals, maybe it's not so important. I don't know. So, I think that, yeah. And then even at the games, you'll see some pretty cool workouts sometimes in the age group divisions. And you're like, damn, like I'm pretty sure they could have done a version of that in an individual field, and it would have been one fun to watch as well, or vice versa. And there always are some workouts that have, that are very similar, but there's some that are not.
Brian and I were discussing about whether just now there should be more masters athletes in the 35 to 39 range going to the CrossFit Games. I tried to point out a compromise, and then I also raised my voice. And did you see what he did? He just pointed at one simple fact. He didn't go for the emotional feel. Then I attacked him. I said, I went ad hominem. I said, oh, you want your cake and eat it too. He didn't bite at any of those. He just said, hey, dude, look, half the registrants are the old motherfuckers. And then what do I have to do? I have to acquiesce at that point. This is just a common decency and conversation and thought. That's a fucking winner right there. Half the fucking people who are getting into this this open are oldies, and it's like, yeah, then accommodate them at the games. They want to participate, and the truth is, those guys are real. 35 to 39. That's still an age where there's going to be outliers there who are doing stuff that are completely ridiculous and worth highlighting. Is recovery really the thing that differentiates a 35 and a 25-year-old? If you had to just pick the primary thing, like you got two guys who are just amazing, but just the 25-year-old is going to be ready for workout too before the 35-year-old.
Yeah, in that, like in a vacuum, I would say yes.
Okay, really, just sweeping generalization.
Yeah, but like, look, I'm looking at the 35 to 39 men's division right now, and in spots 11 through 20, you have Stephen Fawcett, former Games athlete, legend in the UK. You have Giannis Papadopoulos, this incredibly fun to watch, super strong guy. He set the deadlift record on the touch and go deadlift, or the dead stop deadlifts a couple of years ago. You have Elijah Muhammad and Paul Tremblay. Don't need to say much about them. And Kyle Ruth, who I think was second place at the games in this division last year. And those guys are all out. Of course, in the Masters, there's always going to be people that come in. So there's some other guys like Nick Roberts, Diego Jimenez, Chris Clyde, Yasuhiro Uchibori from Japan that also would have been in if they got 20 athletes. I'm sorry, but I would love to see every single one of those guys competing at the games. Elijah Muhammad, Paul Tremblay, the guy who got second place last year, Giannis Papadopoulos, these guys, if the right workout come out, could win a workout at the CrossFit Games against Rich Froning and Scott Panchik and Sam Dancer. Like they're specialists in certain things. They have experience to draw on. That would be fun to see. You know, it doesn't always happen, but like the fact that there's a guy who's 20 in the top 20 in the world in this division that's from Japan, that's awesome. I would love to see that guy competing there against these people. You know, you've been asking for it on these shows. We want to see like Oriental Asian people at the games competing. Where are they?
I don't think you can say Oriental.
Yeah, you
anymore.
can because
you
can because
okay, sorry, my bad.
They have a distinct look that's different than the people from Western Europe, Asia.
I apologize for bringing political correctness to this show. I apologize.
Whatever. And the point is, there's a guy there in Japan who's in the top 20 in the world in what I would say is the third most competitive division worldwide after the elite men and elite women, and with a slightly different system, he could have been there competing. And I think that we would have had a better overall experience with that division, which is, I mean, it's going to be fun anyway, just because of the top guys. But I think there's a big miss this year.
Oh, what is the average age of a team athlete? Do you know that? I know that's a lot of people, but you know why I'm curious about that is I wonder if it's an older crowd. Or what maybe even is interesting is maybe
you know what Oriental means, by the way.
It's a kind of carpet. We had an Oriental carpet growing up as a kid. From the Orient. It means Eastern.
So Oriental Asian means Eastern Asian as opposed to Western Asian. If you go into Mexico, there's two mountain ranges, the Oriental and the Occidental. One's on the east, one's on the west. It's not an age term and it's not an offensive term. It's a descriptive geographical term.
Fuck. I'm going to start using that. Thank you. I appreciate you liberated a word from my vocabulary. I appreciate it. Thank you. I am very concerned about offending people. Corey Leonard, $10. Thoughts on Franco's Misfits and the other Franco's team. What does that mean, Franco? I know Misfits. What's Franco's Misfits?
CrossFit Franco's is a gym in Texas. Mm-hmm. This team in particular is asking about the Franco's Misfits. Are ranked 6th on my list currently. They consist of Brandon Luckett, former Games athlete, Logan Collins, former Games athlete, Alexis Johnson, all former individual Games athletes, and Shaylin Laurie, who is not a former individual Games athlete, but has a lot of experience on fairly competitive teams, both in and out of the CrossFit Games season. I think that they are, I would consider them, like someone said earlier, there's only 5 relevant teams. I think that's a little bit short-sighted. I would say they're definitely.
Which would be 4 more than last year.
Well, if you're talking about the winner, I suppose. Yeah. But as you know, I'm far more interested in the competition than just the winner. I like to know about many and more of the teams and people competing because I recognize how difficult it is to get there and how talented. I mean, look, I'm telling you, anyone who's on a team that finishes in the top 10 this year, extremely impressive. It might not have that star power of a Rich Froning that you're referring to, but there's plenty of talent and plenty of depth in the team division this year. And it's one of the reasons why I made this list.
Luckett was I think I had him on the show, and he said he retired. I think he was taking over. He was an individual athlete, and I want to say that maybe he's a doctor or he's in some sort of like medical devices, and he's taking over his dad's business. But I guess
CrossFit Francos is in Louisiana.
And then we got Logan Collins. Logan was the one that was having issues. He was trying to avoid going to Canada last year, right?
Yep. Winner of the Fibonacci finale in 2017. The only person to finish the workout.
Wow. And then Alexis Johnson, this is another games athlete, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know who this is.
Shaylin Laurie. She was on the team she was on last year, was unable to compete at semifinals or the games. One of their teammates popped for steroids.
Okay, but she's not like from the Special Olympics or anything. She's legit.
She's legit.
Okay. All right. Wad Zombie, look, we're not even going to have to organize the show. There's just so much money coming in. We just answer questions for an hour and then be done. Or you answer questions. I collect the money. Wad Zombie, welcome to today's episode of Brian correcting Sevan's pronunciations. Fair. I probably read that too late. The timing's probably off on that. Brian, you were saying that we were talking about the star power on a team. Looking at these teams, big picture, is there a team on here that's as likely to win as we would say that the Mayhem team was likely to win when they competed? Is there a like, hey, don't even watch this, these guys got it? Is there a Tia Toomey here?
I don't think so. I think that a lot of people might feel that way about the Proven team. Obviously, I do already have them at the top of the rankings. And basically, I just think that, as I have thought since the Rogue Invitational team division, when they had that tug of war that one year, and they were still on OC3 Black, that Taylor and Andrea are the best women, especially when they're on a team together in the team competition of CrossFit. And when you have the top women, it's a huge advantage. Now, look, the women on the next 5 or 6 teams on that list are also incredible. I mean, even down to 8 there, Kelly Stone and Mary Kay Dreisilk are phenomenal as individual athletes and great team athletes. But Taylor and Andrea have always found a way to kind of distinguish and separate themselves from the rest. Tola and Tim are more than good enough to complement that. And so I do think they're the favorites, but I am by no means sleeping on CrossFit Invictus. That team has one singular goal this year. They have great chemistry across all 4 of them. I believe all 4 of them are improving individually and as a team. I think I won't be surprised if another team is kind of in the mix, but my instinct right now is that those 2 teams will pull away towards the end of the weekend and be within 30 points of each other for the overall title.
Tyler Watkins from Fantasy Fitness League, Lawn Chair leaderboarding. Shaylin won the Crash Crucible this past year. She's very legit. He's referring to Shaylin, who we were just talking about on CrossFit Franco's team, and the Crash Crucible is J.R. Howell, who will be on the show tonight. It's J.R. Howell's competition, so she is legit.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm pulling for Invictus. Maybe it's because I had Jorge and Devin on the show and I really like them, and obviously I've seen Devin around the CrossFit community.
You haven't had Alchama on the show yet?
No, that's a mistake, huh? Probably a mistake that I haven't had all of them on the show.
Yeah, you should get them on. Who'd you say you had on?
I had Jorge and Devin. I've had Tim Paulson on and Taylor and Andrea too, and I have to say I really enjoyed all of them too. But maybe it's just because of how recent I had Jorge and Devin on.
Yeah, I mean, I think Alchama is a good story, fun personality. I think you'd really like a conversation with him.
Yeah, you seem disappointed. I'm gonna DM him immediately when the show's over. How close is this gonna be? If Invictus wins, you're not surprised?
I just said I thought it would be within 30 points by the end of the competition between those 2 teams.
And so you wouldn't, so you wouldn't be surprised at all?
No.
Taylor and Andrea will dominate.
Yeah, I mean, look, when we say the Mayhem Freedom team is not coming back, well, half of it is. They were the women on that team the last 2 years. We know, obviously, how good Rich is and what he's done, but Andrea and Taylor have been on teams that have beaten Rich's teams before, not at the games, but they're legit. And so I do think that I give them the nod, but I don't think that it's a runaway by any means.
CrossFit Riverside, 1999 for some beer. Thank you. Victor M, 93. Brian, friend. What is your reasoning behind putting new unknown teams ahead of reoccurring teams that are going for their second or third games appearance?
Varied. It depends on the team, and I acknowledge this is really, really difficult to do. I would say that probably if someone's looking at this first blush, they might be surprised to see that I have a team from Oceania ahead of the team that's finished second place at the games the last 2 years in terms of CrossFit Oslo Navy Blue. And I totally understand that. And part of the reason why I would do something like that is to say, like, hey, don't sleep on this team. I think Royce Dunn is a extremely underrated team athlete in particular. We know that individually he has had what it takes to get to the games in the past. He's had some incredible performance there individually. I think that there are aspects of leading a team in a CrossFit competition that he embodies that you can't necessarily teach, just from this balance between aggression and calm, experience that he has, leadership that he has, and he handles the front part of the worm as well as any male in the field, and that is critical to. Oh yeah, this guy's addressing that right there, and that is critical when you come to team competition because the worm will have a factor. I want to get to Arnaud L's question at some point about CrossFit Genus also, but we can hold on that one until later.
Where do you see that?
At Brian, why not putting CrossFit Genus in the top 10? So we'll hold on that one. But
okay,
I don't want to like this guy's accusing me of being disrespectful towards Oslo Navy Blue, and I don't think that's the case at all. I am totally acknowledging CrossFit Oslo Blue as being extremely relevant and in contention. I think that they're more in a contention for third, fourth than for first, second for the reasons I just spoke about with Proven and with Invictus. But I think people are drastically underestimating that Torian Mayhem team if they don't think that they can podium. You may not. I mean, Brandon Swan, tons of. I think experience just goes a long way. Brandon Swan has a ton of experience, and he's totally content playing kind of second fiddle in terms of men to Royce Dunn. Christy Hollard used to be Christy Bishop and Marnie Sykes. These are women that you would know more about if Oceania had maintained 5 game spots over instead of 3 over the last couple of years in a much more relevant way than you do now. Marnie was competing on a team last year and has a lot of experience. Christy's competed on teams before. So I think this team has a lot to offer and is a legitimate podium threat. It's possible they finish 4th, 5th, whatever, but I don't want people to think that there isn't a team from Oceania that's as good as some of these other teams that they know.
Oslo has a dude with gray hair on the team.
Ivan. He's such a good guy. Such a funny guy too.
That doesn't make up for his gray, the grays. Houdet, look at Houdet hanging out.
Yeah, this I would say is a team that, like, I feel that they should be very good. They've done very well in the competitions already this year. Looking forward to seeing them in the semifinal. And look, like the one thing that kind of sticks out to me here, which some teams can overcome this, and in some cases.
Can I guess what it is? Can I guess what it is? The height discrepancy.
It's big. It's really big. Now
you're concerned about like the worm or some shit, or like cycling toes to bar if they have to do that side by side or some shit like that.
Yeah, the range of motion for wall balls, gymnastics like chest to bars, toes to bars in big sets, just syncing that up. Worm movements. If you have to hold the worm while someone else is doing something else. There's some elements of, and that's what I think Andrea and Taylor have been, one of the reasons that they've been really successful with anywhere they go is because they just have that, they're a little bit taller on average than most of the women. Julian Krag Maschwitz is the guy that's super tall on that team. He has some team experience for sure. He's incredibly fit. But when you have a guy on your team that's really, really tall and a woman that's not, sometimes it can be a little bit problematic.
Any particular circumstance that you can think of where you're just like, holy shit, like, is there a standout moment that's like a games moment where it's like, hey, that's just not working?
I don't know off the top of my head a specific moment that, from a workout or whatever, but anytime you have to put the worm overhead, in particular, I think that can become a challenge.
This right here, CrossFit Move Fast Lift Heavy. This doesn't have the guy on it.
This is their second team. Their first team is in 11th place on these rankings. So
what's the guy's name?
Christian Harris.
Christian Harris. That's right. Where did you rank his first team?
11th.
Ah, okay. All right. Wow, I can't believe you go all the way down to 40 with this. This is intense. But wow, Africa even has a team on here. 36. That's bold.
Yeah, I mean, they are definitely going to make the games, barring injury. They're the runaway favorites in Africa for sure. And they are pretty good. I mean, they didn't choose, none of them, they made a commitment to team this year. So they didn't want to even try for the individual. I think that everyone, or at least 3 of the 4 on their team, easily makes it in the individual. Michelle Miranda's on that team. She was the representative at the games last year. So, they're going to be at the games. So I felt like I had to put them on this list just so that people are aware of them. They're representing Mayhem. They've been focused on this. I have some friends in Africa who sometimes send me some clips of their training and whatever. So, yeah, I tried to put at least the top team from every part of the world on here.
Daniel Garrity, has CJ Martin ever been on the show? No, that's a huge mistake on my part. Good morning, Barry McCockner. Halpin, always good to see you. Jedediah, always great to see you. Good morning. Jamie Latimer, great to see you too. And we are here looking at the first, I'm going to say it's the first ever. Maybe Brian disagrees, but it's the first ever power rankings for teams. This Brian, this will be a list that's the most difficult to keep accurate, correct? People getting injured. There's just too many variables. Any people leaving teams, people coming to teams, teams dissolving, all the stuff.
I mean, yeah, yes and no. I mean, obviously there's, 4 times as many athletes on every team and all these other things, but no, I mean, when something happens, generally find out about it and just make adjustments to either the roster or, actually yesterday I found out, as many people did, that 2 teams are not of the same composition that we thought they were going to be. And so we made some changes just last night based on the information that we'd heard.
Fair enough. I can't find the link. Oh, darn it. Unfortunately. Hold on one second. Maybe it's over here. What I'm about to bring up, I do feel is a CrossFit gym owner charged with molestation. Nope, not that one. I feel like this. I feel like this is a little bit below you to bring this up. What the fuck? I can't find it. There was there's a guy named Zach George who I had on the show, who's out of the UK.
What do you mean you can't find it?
I can't find this link. There's a link. Some girl posted a link. I have this, but I feel like Zach George was on a team, and now it says, what a journey I've been on from being very overweight and self-conscious kid to being a CrossFit Games athlete to now being on Gladiator. This is some show from like the 80s. This is some show. There he is. Cool dude. This is some show from the 80s in the United States. I don't think they have this in the US anymore. But anyway, someone sent me a link to a lady on his team. I guess the story is this. Do you know the story? Are you following the story?
Go on.
There's some lady who is on his team. He's on a team of 4 from the UK. And I guess 3 days ago, I guess the semifinals is coming up, right? And I guess a couple days ago, Zach George is like, yo, I'm not doing the semifinals. I'm doing a TV show called Gladiator. And they're on the team together, and she blasted him. Can anyone send me that link? What's her name? Do you know
the girls on the team are Nicole Crouch and Janie Garrett.
Let me see if I can find this Nicole thing. Do you know which one made the post?
No.
That's not going to help. What do you think? What do you think about that? Do you have an
possible
opinion on
that Peter Coffee Pods and Wads sent it to you? That's what he's saying it here, and I think Will also posted it in the comments.
Oh, let me see. Is this below you to talk about this type of?
No, I mean,
okay.
I found out about.
Oh yeah, here it is. I don't like her publicly attacking him. I don't care really what he did. Me personally.
Let's see what she said.
What we do in life echoes in eternity. God, I hope what I did last night before I went to bed echoes in eternity. But thanks for keeping this a secret until 3 days ago. So she's pissed, a little passive aggressive, right? Even bigger, thanks for ruining our 2023 season, playing the victim, giving away her power. I guess I'll just sit back and watch Gladiators instead then. It's like, and then Hiller calls Zach George a wanker. I'm not sure what that means, but I think it's English for penis head. Did you have any thoughts on this? I mean, the guy has an opportunity. I guess I just don't think, was this team even going to make it to the games?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, they had it was pretty strong team. The UK has a very strong community there when it comes to CrossFit. Obviously, they've
when you say strong, you mean close, tight knit?
Yeah, they support their athletes. Like, even if they're not the best in the world, they support them to the extreme. Like, they get behind them for sure. They have a very, very supportive community. I think, Zach has been a beneficiary of that for sure. Some of the accomplishments he's had both on and off the competition floor. I mean, you're not wrong. It's a great opportunity. Yesterday when I heard about this, I had originally heard that he had made this decision, but they'd continued to compete because they had an alternate, which is why the alternates are in place in case something happens. However, when I went and looked on the game site, in their open roster, they have an alternate listed for male, not for female, but on their competition team roster, they do not. And then this is where it's just hearsay. Why is that? Why didn't they listed that guy on their competition team roster? Because then their team could have continued to compete. And even though it would have been a similar situation to CrossFit Nordic last year, where their alternate is not as good as their main player, they still can show up and compete. And that CrossFit Nordic team, I think, with the backup last year, still did great and maybe exceeded expectations with him filling in so late. But that wasn't the case. I'm not sure why it wasn't listed as an alternate. And it's certainly a bummer for the rest of them because they were in this together, the four of them, and then one person backed out.
What do you think? I mean, she doesn't feel good that she wrote this, right? Like, she posted this and now she's like, she posted this.
I mean, people make these, do this all the
19 time. Hours ago. Why did she needs to pull this down, right? This isn't.
I totally understand how she's feeling. He's saying, this is an opportunity I may only get one time. I have to think about my family when I make decisions like this. Obviously, there's going to be a financial, compensation for being on this show. I'm sure it wasn't an easy decision for him. Some people will call it a selfish decision. It's a tough spot to be in. I think that it's really unfortunate that they didn't choose to have that alternate listed on their competition roster because it does dampen the blow a little bit. But now those other three people on the team are left high and dry this season. And I can certainly understand feeling bitter or resentful because of that.
I hear you. My thing is get over it and get good enough to be an individual and shut the fuck up. I don't think this makes her look any better. I don't think this will bring her any peace of mind. I appreciate your balanced, objective look to it. But taking a guy out and publicly flogging him is like, just call him up yourself or I don't know. Unless that's her job. I don't know the nature of her account. Look, like if that's her job, if she publicly flogs people anyway, like that's her shtick, I get it. But like here, what's it say about you also as a team player to do that? You know what I mean? Take the fucking high road. She could have just said, hey, this sucks. Zach is going to TV and let other people make the assessment, right?
But the things that she said, other people are going to say anyway.
Yeah.
It's a really, like, every person probably feels this. Like, before I write something like that, or before I post something like that, let me sleep on it and come back the next day. But there's always, I've certainly done it myself. I've posted something and then even a few hours later, I've been like, fuck, like, even though I feel that way, or that might be true or whatever, did I really need to put that out there publicly?
Something happened last year too. Do you know what happened last year to her?
To her, or
someone else will chime in. What do you think about this? I agree with this too. Oh, her teammate tested positive last year. This guy Harris has a good point. Maybe he's juiced up and he doesn't want to fail the drug test, and so he's before you take the 4-year ban. I don't blame him for that either. If I'm juiced up to the gills, I'm not taking no fucking drug test. I'm finding a way out.
I do think I know which team she was on last year. That kind of the leader of that team too, and the leader of that training program failed the drug test last year. So that's 2 years in a row. I mean, and this has happened to a couple other people. I think it actually may have happened to Shaylin Laurie, where she's been kind of I know you hate the word, but a victim of circumstances that were out of her control back-to-back years. And that's really tough. But, this is unusual, but it is kind of the risk that you take when you go team. There's a lot more opportunity. There's 4 times as many likelihood that someone gets injured, sick, or unable to compete for whatever reason. So
maybe she's done being mad and she'll ask you guys how to be perfect like you. You don't have to be perfect. You just don't have to show people your flaws all the time. Hide some of them. Just hide some of them. No one's perfect. But I appreciate you recognizing that in us. That means I'm doing my job, tricking you guys. Okay, so would they a top 10 team? Would they have been a top 10 finisher at the games?
I don't think so. They were,
because Zach can't qualify. This guy can't qualify as an individual to the games, right? He's tried. He can't do it.
Yeah.
So it's not. He's a superstar in his own right. He has a lot of Instagram followers, but I mean they're not a
their team would have been.
They're not a world class team.
No, top 8 in Europe, top 20 at the games. The best case scenario.
And if they just took the best teams to go to the games, that team wouldn't even go. If they didn't do it by region, right? They don't make the top 40 best teams alive right now.
Fringe.
Okay. Anyway, like you, Zach, and in response to, I also, Janie, I'm sorry. That sucks too for you. I'm sure you're pretty fired up. But in the end, like Philip said, if you want to be perfect like me, just know that throwing a temper tantrum online isn't always the best way. You won't feel you'll attract people like Andrew Hiller, and think Hiller makes a video on this?
I don't know.
Do you want to say congratulations to Zach for getting on TV for a show from the 80s?
I mean, absent of anything else, that's a pretty cool experience.
Look, to see CK Kevin. She said she'd watch him on Gladiators. Fair enough. And then someone else said Zach handled it poorly. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, I didn't mean to even fall into this mutt. The story doesn't really interest me so much, but I think it is probably one of the most exciting things happening with team. Brian, how many events will they do? How many events will the teams do at semifinals, and how many will they do at the games? And is it commensurate to individual?
The semifinals, I mean, they have 3 days of competition. I would expect a minimum of 2 per day. I'm always hopeful for 7 to 8 instead of 6 to 7, but I would bet on 6 or 7 scored events. And at the games, they won't do as many as individuals. It's usually more in the 10 to 12 range than the 12 to 15.
Okay.
Sometimes sometimes there are weird things at the games though. Like in 2016, I think it was, every person on the 6-person team had an individual event and they all counted as an event. So those 6 events. So it looked like they had a ton of scored events, but it was really just, so sometimes there's some nuances like that. But basically it's going to be 10 to 12.
Will Brandstetter, this is the best story in teams since its existence, and it's a 2 of 10. I appreciate the comment, but when Miranda Alcaraz got hurt and they still wanted to put her on the floor, that was a pretty big story.
2015.
Yeah, because Jason's team would have beat Rich's team that year, right?
Yeah.
If Miranda wouldn't have got injured.
They would have. I think they would have run away with it. They were really good.
Yeah. What do you think about this? This is a great question. A little off subject, but I love the question. CrossFit should do an actual affiliate cup separate from the games. You talked about there being, I mean, there's 10,000 or 8,000 affiliates.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of cool opportunity there. Was on Talking Elite Fitness the other day, and we were talking about the CAP program as being, somewhat new and also something that's now available to affiliates. as part of their membership. They don't have to pay for it separately as part of your affiliate fee every year. You have access to the CAP programming if you want. And even if you don't want to use it in your gym for the programming, there are certain, like, there's a lot of thought that's put into that. Hobart and his team explains warm up, explains the progression of a workout, scaling options, the intent behind it, and how to communicate that. And you could study that and become a better coach, even if you never use it in your gym. I also have always thought that there could be this thing where, there's some kind of competition where as an affiliate, you automatically get one entry into the opening stage of the team division. So instead of having, because Tyler Watkins has done studies on this, how many affiliates exist in every state or country, and how many of them have a team that's represented in the open. And it's a really low percentage. But if it was like, no, as whatever CrossFit affiliate you are, you get one entry for your affiliate team into the open. That's part of your $3,000 or whatever they pay annually. Then probably everyone's going to do it. And have one team that signs up, and you could, from there's tons of different things that you could talk about in terms of having an affiliate specific competition. But I don't know. It seems like it could be a fun idea to get affiliates, just like having more, they can choose the best people from their gym, have a team, even if they're not competitive. It's a fun thing that your community could rally around.
There's this talk always, right, that there's kind of this Venn diagram, right? This you have the community and the affiliates, and then you have the CrossFit Games, and then maybe you have some training or whatever. But there needs to be certain continuity between all of the departments or corners or pillars of what is CrossFit HQ, what is the CrossFit movement. And the affiliate cup seems like a slam dunk a way to glorify the affiliates.
Yes.
But then there'll be people just complaining that more like us complaining that, well, more affiliates didn't get in for the competition, blah, 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 blah. You could also just do it on supply and demand. Just run it the capitalistic way, right?
Well, there's a gray area. It's like, and we just saw this last year. Like, what qualifies someone as a member of an affiliate? And that's always been the problem. Now, I wonder
if you get less douchebags trying to skirt that line, blur that line, if you have both affiliate cup and this whatever.
Right. And so I'll just throw this idea out there again. I've mentioned it to you and in a few other platforms at different occasions, that there could be an option at the start of the season to register for the open as a professional or an amateur. And you could do it in the team division too. And therefore, no matter if there's someone who is a fringe, it's not really clear if they're a part of my team or not, that only applies to the professional division. And there's standards and rules, whatever they are, year to year, hopefully that becomes more consistent year to year. And, everyone knows what it is and it's predictable, but that every affiliate gets an entry into the amateur division. And it's really unlikely that you're going to enter a team into the amateur division that has someone who's like, I don't know if they're really a member of my affiliate or not. They're a pro in the sport and whatever else. Like, those people are going to sign up as a pro, whether it's individually or as a part of a team.
Me likey.
I mean, it's an idea. It would have to be have a conversation with people who maybe know more about the administration of the game season than me. But I think it's at least a starting point for a conversation, because this concept of having a true affiliate cup comes up all the time. Anytime we talk about the team division, there are a number of people that are like, what if we could get back to the true affiliate cup? But doing it's not necessarily as black and white as you might think. Doesn't mean there's not a way forward. And I think that that's a good starting point for a conversation.
Philip Kelly, you should get that chick on the show to listen to her fry Zach George. I'd rather have Zach George on and him come on and tell you that the only reason why he took the Gladiator show is because he needs money to pay for his mom's cancer meds. And then the rest of you motherfuckers just shut the fuck up after you hear that story. How about that? Because that's the truth. For those of you who don't know, that's why Zach George went to the Gladiators. I wasn't supposed to reveal that. He's desperate for the money, and he's whoring out that beautiful body of his on a fucking shitty TV show called Gladiators so he can raise some fucking coin to pay for his fucking mom's medical meds.
I don't know. I used to play Gladiator in the basement with my brother and our friends,
That's totally different. That's not the same Gladiator. Totally different Gladiator.
It's not.
Were you guys wearing leather chaps?
Probably just shorts and no shirt and whacking each other with pool noodles, but we were inspired by the TV show.
The story doesn't really, to be honest with you, I'm happy.
I think we actually did it in the pool. We would stand up on like mats that, women would lay on to sunbathe with the pool noodle and try to whack the other person off.
Clip that. Clip that. It's another one. I'm happy for that girl. She's very passionate, obviously, about the teams. I'm very happy for her that she's experiencing passion and a reason for life, and even if it's expressed in anger. And I'm very happy for Zach George. I'm happy for both of them, that they're both getting to feel the taste and passion that some people just don't have in their life. Elizabeth, are you making that up, Sevi? Yeah, 100% I made it up. The thing about Zach George going there for the money for his mom. Yeah, my point is that no one knows. So, like, I don't give a fuck. The whole time I look at Zach George, I just think, wow, I wonder if my skin is softer than his. That's all I'm thinking. I wonder what it's like to feel his traps. Like, I don't actually give a fuck about any of the other stuff. But just an excuse to put a beautiful man on the screen. I don't care about teams either. That's why Brian's on here. Just an excuse to have a beautiful, hairy man on the screen alongside me. Okay. What are we missing here? What can you help me with some pertinent questions? Let me see what I have. How many go to the games? Oh, okay. I have a good question for you that I know you're gonna like. Here we go. Brian, the allocation of teams from the regions, are you happy with how it's done? I know that there's two things. That there's that strength of field number that allows CrossFit to figure out how many people go as individuals. Does that play a role here with teams? How did they figure out how many teams go from each region? And are you happy with the distribution?
Well, first of all, I have had sentiment from when I first found out about the strength of field and worldwide rankings that it should start anew. And it should be communicated how the process will work, and that athletes can sign up for and participate in the season in accordance with their understanding of the significance of what their performances can mean. Because we didn't know that the last couple of years, and we're using that now to determine how the spots get distributed. I thought, and by the way, tomorrow night, Mike Halpin and I will be on here, and we're going to go through our solution to doing exactly that. And I think it's fairly compelling.
And does it cross over to team competition, or is it strictly for individual?
No, I actually thought that if you didn't want to do that, you could have used the team competition as a test pool for how that might look. Because, and even if you didn't execute it in the season, you could be applying it in the background, because the team competition, as we said earlier, more so than the individual, has turnover year to year. And it would be even more ridiculous to base this year's distribution of game spots for the teams based on what happened last year or the year before. And it would be very cumbersome and difficult to apply their models from last year into this season. So, but because the team landscape changes so much year to year, I think that absolutely there's an opportunity for this. And I think that kind of the solution that we're going to show you tomorrow for the individuals could easily be applied to the team side of things. You could still maintain a minimum of one per continent if you want to, or there's a couple other ways that you could go about it, as we'll show you tomorrow night. Because, yeah, I mean, I have 18 teams from North America East in my top 40, but in quarterfinals, I think 17 of those teams were in the top 30 worldwide. So there's a huge, density of very, very high level teams in one competitive region. And it's dramatically more than the other two regions, Europe and North America West, that are getting the same number of spots represented at the games. Meaning that probably the last 4 teams from North America West and the last 3 teams from Europe are not nearly as good as the first 7 or 8 teams that will miss in North America East.
And does that bother you? Do you think you have a more acceptance? I know you really want the best people coming to the CrossFit Games and individual, and you making a small exception to get at least one person from each region, just based on region, but the rest you think should be the best. Is that a fair characterization of your beliefs?
Yeah.
Do you have the same thoughts like that with team, the same rigorous demarcation line, or with teams, are you willing to maybe let in a little bit more to get a broader global representation based on geography rather than quality of team?
Just look at the people in the comments. We don't want so many teams at the games. Why don't you want so many teams at the games? Because the bottom 15 teams at the games are not good enough to be there, basically. But there are teams around the world that are potentially good enough to be there and be competitive and have an impact on the overall title race. In the same way that I think about the 11 through 20 spots of the 35 to 39 men. There are men in that region of the leaderboard that would have impacted the overall results on the podium, even if they're not themselves placing there. They're good enough to have an impact on individual events that would alter the scoring, that would create a little bit of buffer so that if a Rich or a Scott or a Sam Dancer or Brian Wong struggles on something, that they're punished a little bit more heavily for it because the field is a little bit deeper. And in the team division, that is certainly the case as well, where right now there's a dozen teams at the games that you'll be lucky if for even a single event they place inside the top 20. So they're having absolutely no impact on those competitive teams at the top. And at the expense of that, you have teams that are not at the games that could have specific events where they factor in.
Fair. Very well said. Corey Leonard, your skin is not softer than Zach George. I suspect you're right, but there's no proof of that. I take offense to Pool Boy. I take offense to Brian's improper use of the pool noodle.
You know,
I think what he meant to say, I take offense to
Gladiators.
Brian's improper use of the word Oriental is what he meant, but he couldn't spell Oriental. Oh, here it is, pool noodle.
One of the best things about pools and Pool Boy is that they're, you know, extremely diverse. You can get a lot of different uses out of them.
Did you know a giraffe? I'm looking at this stat right here. A giraffe's skin is only 20 millimeters in thickness, whereas a manatee. Have you ever seen a manatee?
Certainly,
you know what that
pictures of
is?
it. I think I've even seen them in real life. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw one in real life once in Florida. Did you see it in Florida?
I mean, I lived in Florida for a year.
It's just like a swimming boulder. It's just like when you see one in the water, you're like, oh, look, a rock with fins. Anyway, its skin is 50 millimeters thick, almost 3 times the thickness of a giraffe. I wonder if a giraffe is soft when you pet it, or if its fur is coarse. Anyway, a long-haired giraffe. You know what would be the greatest? This is a little off subject. You know what would be the greatest invention in the history of man? You know what would sell faster than anything? If someone could come up with a miniature giraffe, like a giraffe that only got like 3 feet tall or 4 feet tall. Do you know how like every rich person in America would have one? Don't you think? Like if you could have you know, like they have a miniature pony. What if you had wouldn't you want that? A miniature giraffe?
You believe it or not, in my preparation for the show, I didn't think about that.
Oh, all right, fine. Jedediah Snelson, guest on the show, as opposed to Brian, who is closer to a co-host, and Jedediah Snelson is definitely closer to a guest. They need to spend more time creating storylines for teams so they're more compelling. You could do some reality TV show style coverage on YouTube, highlighting several teams at all levels. Hey, who are there any media outlets that do good? I mean, now that Mayhem's not doing, I mean, that was Mayhem not only had Rich Froning, but they had the best media of any person or team, period. Right? I mean, the coverage of the Mayhem team was the best coverage of any CrossFit competitors anywhere, regardless. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do think that there are certain, I guess, training camps that will definitely have media out there about their teams. I don't know about a more bipartisan or neutral site that's putting out really high quality media that's evaluating several different competitive teams from around the world against each other. But Invictus will have 3 teams at semifinals, and all 3 teams will have a chance to make the games. They're all 3 on my top 40 list here. Like I mentioned earlier, CrossFit Oslo, I think, has 6 teams going to the European semifinal. Certainly, they'll be putting out content, not just surrounding their top teams, but also the depth of the number of teams they have there. And even teams like Training Think Tank. They have a very good team. I have them ranked in the top 20. I might have them ranked a little low, actually. They usually outperform kind of what you expect them to do. And I'm sure that they'll put out some media about their team. So, you know, if you're paying attention, you'll see some stuff for sure. But again, is it on the channel that's just exclusively about that team, that's really only appealing to their audience, their community that's supporting them? Or is it something that's a little bit more, like I said, objective, or coming from a media outlet like a Spin or Talking Elite Fitness or Morning Chalk Up or whatever, that's showing the landscape of the team division in a more broad sense?
If I were to if I were over at Proven and I was doing their media and I was going to focus on the team, I would focus on the coach. If Shane or Tia is coaching that team, I would make the coach like 50% of it.
I think
I would pivot over to
this, probably taking the lead there, as Shane and Tia work more closely with probably Saxon and Brooke.
Yeah, I think Shane can bring a lot of star power that's untapped, but we have to really get into his head. Same with Max El-Haj. I think that their unexploited media potential, they could bring a shitload to wherever. But the media team is gonna have to work closely with them. Mike Poolboy, Jorge Fernandez is so handsome. I apologize for this, Mike, but yesterday I was suggesting that you and Victoria Campos make a child. Dude, if Jorge and Victoria made a child, holy shit. Brian, who's the best athlete, male athlete in teams in this year? Who's the guy? Like if we were like, okay, we're taking all these people and we're doing an individual competition, who's the man?
You probably have to say Tim Paulson. I mean, he's had the best success at the individuals side of things recently and consistently, but Royce Dunn's in the conversation. Andre Houde's in the conversation. Peripherally, maybe Jorge. Just looking to see if there's anyone else further down here. Probably those guys. Those would probably be the top 3 or 4 guys.
And what about women? Who is the fittest female? If we had to be like, okay, teams are over, we're going to get to give 1 or 2 of you over to individual.
Probably Andrea Nisler. I'm just trying to see. I think in an individual competition, Alexis Johnson do well, Kelly Stone do well, Kelsey Keel do well, Caroline Spencer, 2-time games athlete the last 2 years. Chloe Gavin-David, there's some good ones for sure. Mia Hesketh, but I still probably would lean towards Andrea.
Who will coach the Mayhem team when they're out? Who will be their guy? Can Rich do both? How will that be set up at semifinal? How will that be set up at the games? Can you do the Masters just go in their own? I made the assumption that Rich is going to the
competes,
game. Yeah,
he would be done competing the same day that the team competition starts, I believe, or maybe the day before. So there'd be very little to no overlap. So in theory, he could do both.
And you think we would see him out there riding Angelo's jock, beating on with the crack in the whip on Angelo?
I mean, Rich and Angelo have a really cool relationship, and I think that Angelo respects Rich tremendously, and Rich trusts Angelo a lot. And so I think that, if Rich was their coach at the games, that would be understandable. Historically, Facundo has had the wristband for the top CrossFit Mayhem team, so he might do that again, even though it's not the same team. I'm not entirely sure. Facundo may choose to have the coach's band for one of the individual athletes. They have some options.
Mike Halpin, I believe this is inaccurate. I hate to butt heads with the numbers guy. Rich has said on his podcast he is not doing Masters. I believe he said it is 99.7% that he's not doing the Masters. If I'm correct. And what do you think? You think he's? Oh, and the reason why, let's put that in there, is because a few days after the games there is a mountain bike race. I think it's called the Leadville 100 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And Rich believes for some crazy reason that's a good idea to do that.
And in addition to that maybe he won't be he won't be as prepared for that as he would want to be if he did the games. But there's stories going way back of Rich competing and winning the CrossFit Games, and then everyone else taking these days off. And the next day, what does Rich do? He goes out and trains. Like, this is a guy that just trains every day of his life, no matter what.
Richie Rich, I'm not sure why, but I just don't like Houde. Kind of just hate his face. Wow, I really like Houde's face. I like him. He's a gentle soul, isn't he?
Yeah, Andre Houde. I got nothing bad to say about him. So
yeah, he's
sorry,
cool.
Rich.
Sorry. I can't even get on that even a tiny bit. Love the dude. He's always been accommodating to the show. That's all I give a fuck about. Halpin, I think J.R. Howell of CrossFit Crash Gray is the top individual athlete. Is JR really going to team? No, that's just bullshit. Rumors.
Yeah.
Justin H. Rich said he was just going to support athletes. Is really JR's coaching a team?
Yeah, his team's on this. He has 2 teams going, but his team is his top team is number 38 on this list.
No shit. Oh, how much home cooking is there? CrossFit. Crash Black. Wow.
Oh, they're legit.
I don't recognize any of the names.
That's okay.
What? So you think JR will actually be in if this team makes it? He won't be
Do you
available.
recognize any of the names on any of the teams on that part of the leaderboard?
Let me see. Well, let me ask you this real quick, and then I'll do that. Do you think that he's not going to be available for the show during the games for commentary because he's going to be at the games coaching a team?
Yeah, certainly there will be times that he's not. I don't know how often and for how long you're trying to go live, but I think he
All
can
the
be
time,
available.
every time, all the time, whenever I want.
Right, whenever you want. But maybe Greg comes in town and it doesn't happen at all.
Right, good point. Oh wow, you know me well. Coffee pods and wads. Rich is joining American Gladiators. You heard it here first. I do not recognize a single name. Is that number 33 CrossFit? Is that Anna Tobias right there? She just typo? No. Do you recognize any of these people?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, pretty much all of them. I would say at least 3 out of 4 on
Oh,
every
I
team
know
on
this girl, Lauren Stallwood. Is that's the super hot chick from Invictus? I definitely know her.
She lived in the UAE for a long time.
Hey, who's the other girl she's always hanging with? Who's the Asian girl? Is this Kelsey Schultz?
No, I think you're thinking of Emily Lugman. And
Okay.
She's on their second team, which is 18th on this list, along with Jessie Smith.
My Instagram search is like always has one of them in it. Always. The algorithm has cracked the code. It's crazy. Don't act like it's not in your search either, Brian. Don't fucking get all fucking puffy chested on me, all high and mighty. Anything in here that you think needs to be highlighted? Anything? Oh, look at this guy, this Dex Hopkins guy. This is a morning chalk up guy, number 22. CrossFit move fast, lift heavy.
Yeah, we already talked about him at one point.
Okay.
Now, I did want to talk about the 21st team on the list, and someone in the comments had asked about him, CrossFit Genus.
Yep.
They were third place at the games 2 years ago with a slightly different roster than this. Last year, I think 3 out of the 4 athletes from the 2021 team had different things going on that prevented them from competing. This team could be a lot better than 21st. They could I don't even think it's out of the realm of possibility for them to potentially be 5th or 8th or something like that. But
at the games.
But I want to see them compete in person because it's a little bit different makeup than they've had in the past. I'm basically looking for them to, if they podium in the European semifinal, I will jump them up at least 10 and possibly as many as 12 to 14 spots on this list into inside the top 10.
I just Googled one of the guys' names. He didn't even pop up. What about them? What have you seen from these guys that makes you think that they're the shit?
I know each of them individually, and they're good. Like, they're really good. I just want to see them as a team, how they move with the worm, how they do things in sync, how they respond in a, fast-paced workout where something goes a little bit wrong, small things like that I'll be looking for to see just how good they can be against the best teams in the world.
Any of them former individual athletes?
I believe Carol Castellani, I think in 2019. Let's check.
Well, Brandstetter, Rich leaves us for a
33rd.
bike race, and you guys are mad at Zach for going on a TV show. Oh, very strong point.
Yeah, 33rd in the 2019 games, Carol Castellani.
Okay. From which country?
France.
Okay.
This is a French team.
Brian shut that down quick. I can't remember what that was, but yes, that happens now and again on the show. Oh my goodness. When does the drug testing go down for the teams? Is it kind of guaranteed that we're going to see one of these teams pop? There's just so many fucking athletes.
Yeah, no, I mean, last year there were a few. Yeah, they get drug tested after the semifinals. The top 5, I think they'll probably drug test 6, 7, 8 or something like that, just in case of backfill, so that they have, in case they have to do that for whatever reason, that they have those samples as well. And then occasionally they'll just do, quote unquote, random testing from somewhere else on the leaderboard. So yeah, certainly if you're competing on a team and you're going to semifinals, the possibility of getting tested exists.
So these teams, to go back one more time, these teams will all be showing up to their regions,
Mhm.
and from there they qualify. And I know we talked about this in the beginning, but is it I don't know if the word's commensurate, but is it the same amount of teams go from each region as individuals?
Close, but there's no variable based on the strength of field and the Hunt distribution method. So 10, 10, and 10, North America, East, West, and Europe. That gets you 30 of the 38 teams at the games. 3 from Oceania, 2 from South America, 2 from Asia, 1 from Africa. That should get you to 38.
35-8. That does. And when they and how many will go to each semifinal?
The ones that get 10, I believe there are 40 teams going, and the other ones, I think there are 20 teams going.
Okay. Wow. So so even Africa, does Africa have 20 teams?
Let's see how many are signed up for their semifinal right now.
So it's 20, 20, 20, 20, and then 40, 40, 40, 40. Hey, so that's so if you have 40 teams and there's 4 people on each team, that's 160. And if each of them brings a mom and a dad to watch them, that's times 2. That's 320. That's a lot. That's bringing, those people are actually going to bring people to the regionals, the semifinals.
Look, South Africa has a very active competition scene. They have 19 teams are signed up for their semifinal right now,
which is crazy, right?
Yeah, but there was, I think, in the fittest in Cape Town a couple years ago, while people like Cole Sager and Sean Sweeney and Katrin David's daughter went and competed there. There were, I think, in the team division at the same competition, there were like 88 teams competing. So they have, they might not be as competitive as some other parts of the world, but they certainly show up in numbers like other parts of the world do when it comes, especially to team competitions.
How solidified are these people, the names that we're seeing on this team? Like, is it too late to swap people out? Back to the,
and there are, most of these teams won't swap anyone out. Like the names you see here are the intended members of their team. Obviously, if there's an injury between semis and the games, it's great to have an alternate just in case. And in some cases, I think probably the most prolific example of this is like the Kalashnikov team, the Russian team that's now living in Abu Dhabi or somewhere in the UAE and competing still in Asia, but living and training somewhere else. I think that they have a roster of 6, and they very much view it as this is a team of 6, and when it comes game time, we'll make the decision then. So they're all training. They might think that they know who the top 4 are, but the others are like in the mix and can still earn a spot on that final roster. I think that's how they kind of operate, which is a little bit different and kind of cool.
Hey, so you can go to the semifinals, qualify for the games, and then still swap someone out if they're in that in 6. I like this. You don't even have to have a reason. It doesn't have to be injury.
Correct.
Wow, crazy. So, wow. God, I would be curious to hear what Andrew would say about that. Get a team, get it to qualify, keep someone juiced up, but they don't have to get tested at semifinals, and then rotate them in for the games. Maybe that's too fucking complex. Okay, so you're telling me those 4 people on that Kalashnikov team, they go to semifinals, they qualify, and then for no reason they can just switch out a dude or a girl.
Yeah, and I think
as long as they're on the list of the 6.
Correct. I think that's their intended A team. The ones that we included on this list is who we believe to be the intended A team for every team.
Yeah.
But in that team in particular, I feel that they have a little different approach to it than many of the others, where the alternates on the other teams, like they know for sure that they're there, they're on the team, there's a chance, but unless something happens, they're not going to be on the competitive roster. Whereas I think on that team that there's more of an understanding that show us every day in training, show us when we're doing this thing and that thing. And guys that are on the A team, we're evaluating you at the semifinals. And if you don't perform up to par, your spot could be in jeopardy. And I like I said, I kind of like that mentality. I like it too. And from what I know about them, there's not there's not it doesn't seem like the athletes are insulted when they're not selected, but they're still supportive of the people that their coaches have chosen to send out there. And I mean, that's how it should be in a team sport in general. Like, it's tough. Everyone wants to be in the starting lineup, of course. But if you're not, are you going to sulk on the bench, or are you going to cheer for the team that was selected to go out there at the critical moment?
And by no means, I apologize for having the CrossFit Fly High team, Kolizhnikov team up there when I was talking about roids. By no means do I mean them. I meant anyone. Let me put someone else up here. I meant anyone. Cornholio, when the kids soccer teams have 15 kids on each of them, that means there are 60 spectators. Yeah. And we're definitely, this is still the sport. These people competing here are still the people who bring their mom and dad. Draw your dagger. Brian, would it be cooler if you had a roster of 3 guys and 3 girls and you got to pick which man or which female pairing did each workout individually? That would make it more of a team event.
Yeah, so I mean, this is like strength and depth in the UK. They have like teams of 12 that compete in their event. I think it's every December. And I'm not entirely sure of the format of that, but I've thought about doing this at competitions at the gym that I used to coach at before, where you have, a bigger team that will compete in most of the events, and you select athletes to compete in a minimum number of events each over the course of the competition. It would, I mean, certainly it could be a format that would incite a lot of different conversation. Then you'd, instead of having, like, everyone would have to have 6. Maybe you have to play everyone a minimum of 3 times at semifinals over 8 events. Now there's a lot more strategy. There's an opportunity. I know people don't love it, but there's an opportunity for some specialists to come out, which as a result of that, you end up seeing maybe greater individual performances, greater weights being lifted in specific things, that people love that. And it might draw some more eyes and attention.
You like it.
I think there's potential. I mean, I think there's potential there. And I think that conversations like that should be being had. If I was the CrossFit Games team and I was reflecting on the season, I would say, hey, what did we like about this year? What do we not like? Does anyone have any ideas to maybe increase the excitement, whether it's this affiliate idea that we talked about, or it's this team of 6 with having some selective athletes? You might say, and 2 of the 8 workouts, all 6 have to do it, whether it's a relay format or a 3-and-3, or all 6 doing whatever at the same time. So there's a lot of variability there. And I think it's a fun conversation. And I don't see really the harm in having a conversation like that.
Hey, Halpin has a good point here. It could also mean that if someone gets injured at the games, the team could continue. You could just do that in general. You could just allow the teams to have 2 backups there, but then you'd have to prove. The problem, I guess, is then you have to prove that someone is actually injured and you're not just swapping.
Well, you could say that it
fresh.
has to be a medical withdrawal. You have a medical team that's on site, and if the medical staff deems someone unfit to continue, I know. I
don't like it.
Why not?
Because what if someone says that they can't go on because they have the flu, and the doctors are like, quit being a bitch, and then the dude goes in there and dies, and then it's on the medical team. Like, I can't do it. I can't do it.
Fair. That's a fair point.
I can't do it. But I do like the idea of having a more robust teams. Maybe I'm just I've been accused of overcomplicating shit. So I don't know. Brian, anything else? I'm plumb out of questions. I'm ready to talk about giraffes.
No, I'll just say, like, I am excited that in the team competition there will be uniform workouts across all the semifinals. Despite the fact that they take place on different weekends, it'll give us a better indication of just how competitive that North America East team is. Maybe some of those teams just did great online and they won't do as well in person. And maybe there's going to be a ton of European teams that when the worm shows up, when some of the live competition stuff is thrown at them, that they excel in. And maybe it wasn't as skewed as we thought. And that will be some good, touch points and data points to reevaluate, whether it's us just having conversations about it or the games team themselves looking back at this year and maybe saying, do we want to do something a little different with the team competition next year based on what we saw last year to maybe have a little bit more accurate representation of where the top teams happen to be this season, because that's going to change every year, especially in the team side of things.
Draw your dagger. In baseball, you don't have a 26-man roster with all pitchers. You have guys with different skill sets. Brian, does that offend you that someone would compare the dumbest sport in the history of mankind that attracts the most retarded spectators to our beloved CrossFit?
No comment.
Okay.
Didn't like the question.
All right. Well, I apologize. It was probably a good comment, and I took a biased twist to it since it's my show. Guys, this evening, what's going to happen this evening? Are you on this evening show?
Yeah.
We're basically going to predict how many workouts are going to be at semifinals and what they are going to be, and then we're also going to try to keep Taylor calm.
JR and Taylor, myself, will come on the show tonight, and it's basically a semifinals programming prediction show. As usual, you'll get, probably a very analytical perspective from JR based on what we've seen so far in the open and the quarterfinals, what's kind of missing that they would like to see as make sure it's tested before we get to the games. We'll do a little bit of historical referencing. Generally, you see this and this at semifinals. We know that Adrian has a huge hand, if not total control over kind of what that ends up looking like this year, and that he has, pulled some stuff from the past and made it a little bit more relevant than it's been in recent competition years. So are there things that we could expect to see that might not be in alignment with history based on the new programming team? And yeah, I mean, of course, with those guys on the show and programming being the topic, it can go in a lot of different directions, but they're pretty good at what they do. They spend a lot of time and are very serious about it. I'll try to be prepared as well to keep up with them, and should just be a fun night.
I two things. Draw your dagger. The CrossFit GOAT was a baseball player. I'm telling Rich what you said. Please don't do that. I take it back. Baseball is great. I love baseball. Please don't do that. Please don't tell Rich. Richie Rich, the Beauty and the Beast. That's in reference to JR and Taylor. I really like that. The Beauty and the Beast. Here's the problem.
The beauty may not be so much beauty tonight.
What, really? What happened? JR get hit by a truck? Got a black eye? Oh, no shit. He's coming on like that. He ain't got that shit fixed yet?
I don't think so.
Oh,
wow. Don't give it away. Don't give it away.
Oh my goodness. Listen, when I first started working for CrossFit, there was a friend of mine who I brought along everywhere with me and eventually got hired also. His name was Kerry Peterson. And behind my back, Greg and Lauren and others referred to it as Sevan and the good-looking guy, or the good-looking guy and Sevan. And I was a young man. I was 34 years old, and it always stung a little bit when I'd hear that. Now I completely understand and have embraced my.
He's still there?
No.
Oh wow.
So I don't want to refer to Taylor. I don't know if Taylor's skin is thick enough to refer to them as Beauty and the Beast. Maybe he's a pussy like I was. I don't know. I'll try. I mean, Taylor's extraordinarily good looking in his own kind of American history X way. But okay. Guys, thank you so much. That was the semifinals, or that's the worldwide rankings for teams. Very, very bold of Brian to take that on. A Beauty and the Thumb. That's not bad. Very, very noble of Brian. Strong work to take that on. And we will have tons of semifinal coverage for you. I have not reached out to Grundler yet. But I suspect that it will be myself and Grundler, hopefully, and Hiller and John Young and Taylor and what's his name, Tyler Watkins, Halpin. Those people who don't necessarily, if they don't have direct roles in covering the semifinals, hopefully we will be covering all 3 weeks like madmen, like we normally do, and we'll give you tons of great stuff. We'll also pick Brian off when we can when he's walking between the.
We'll return the 5 minutes with a friend.
Yes, I do. I like that. Whenever Brian gets to take a bathroom break, we'll sneak him on with some interviews using his phone. But we are planning to go full steam ahead on semifinals, and I'm actually pretty pumped for it. All right, I will see you guys this evening. Brian, thanks for coming on. See you this evening. Great week. It's fun seeing you every day, and I'll talk to you guys later.